One question I often get asked by people about animation, they know I love it, is does it upset you when the cartoon characters that you loved growing up are no longer in use? Does it bother me that I don't see Looney Tune cartoons anymore? Does it bother me that I don't really see quite the same amount of like Peanuts cartoons released? And the answer is no, it doesn't actually bother me at all. In fact, I think it is a good thing if the cartoon character essentially dies with its creators. And that's because usually they just get too far away from the actual character during these later versions of the characters. Uh, for example, let's talk Space Jam. I recently did a review of this particular movie, and there's a new one coming out. The problem is with these particular characters being brought up again is the characters in and of themselves were really vehicles for different types of gags that were utilized by the Warner Brothers team. The Warner Brothers directors had very different feels. Chuck Jones, for example, liked to do lots of poses with characters kind of lifting an eyebrow and doing a wink to the audience. When you look at a Friz Freleng cartoon, there's a lot of um, musical gags because he liked using music and so forth. The different directors had different styles, and so they all brought their own feel to the characters. The problem is now when you have, tons and tons of years go by, new directors are going to bring in their own feeling. They're going to bring in their own sense. And quite frankly, the Looney Tunes were really born in the 1930s and 40s, some of them into the 50s. And so those characters have a very distinctive feel from that time. The humor of today does not really match the humor of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. We can appreciate that humor, but society has changed quite a bit. So trying to bring these characters into modern society just doesn't really work. It always feels off, like the characters don't feel right, they don't sound right, they don't quite act the same way, and that's because different people are making it. Another great example of this is when Chuck Jones decided with uh, MGM, make the Tom and Jerry cartoons. He did not make the original Tom and Jerry cartoons. And so when Chuck Jones, a great director, tried to do these characters, they were just off. Tom and Jerry, they were a little too cutesy. And again, it was because they were using some of Chuck Jones's preferences, his style, and the look at the camera giving somebody a wink doesn't work with Tom and Jerry. They were just violent and they would slam each other with hammers and pots and pans and stuff. It doesn't work. And that's not really Chuck Jones's fault. It's he's not really the right director for that particular character. It's just think about it. If you're watching, I don't know, It's a Wonderful Life, and instead of Jimmy Stewart, you insert Tom Hanks, it's going to feel off. It's going to feel weird. And it's because it was a part that was really written and just tailored to Jimmy Stewart and his particular feeling, his particular mannerisms. Anybody else who does it is going to feel weird and off. Last but not least, sometimes cartoons are brought back because the studio feels that they have to do it because if they don't bring a character back, they might lose the copyright. For example, Mickey Mouse here is oftentimes brought back and used by Disney in a new cartoon. Those were brought up not just because the creators felt like they wanted to do it, but if we're just being perfectly honest, part of the reason is Disney has to keep bringing the character back every few years in order to justify the fact that they still have copyright and it's not being pushed by other people that want to use the character. So just when we're talking about characters, I realize sometimes they are brought back because they have to. There's a legal obligation for the studio to bring them back. But generally speaking, if you can make the choice to let a character die with the creator, it's usually for the best. Hopefully, this brings up an animated discussion in your home, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye bye.